What's going on, swim fans? Welcome to Whiteboard Wednesday, and in today's video, I'm gonna share with you how to taper properly for a swimming competition. In this video, I'm not only gonna tell you what tapering is, why it matters, but I'm also gonna break down 4 of the most important training variables to consider, and I'm gonna walk you through a timeline with specific workouts at every segment across the journey. And I'm gonna show you how a workout actually evolves, a singular workout, through the entire training process through a taper so that you can swim faster and smarter than ever before. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, destroy the like button, and let's go ahead and get right into the video. The first thing we need to do is define what taper is. There's a lot of different kinds of taper, but today we're talking about the swimming taper, and it is basically a period of time to reduce your total volume, maybe increase your intensity, increase your specificity and your focus so that you can really go towards a specific event. And what you're trying to do in this taper period is you're trying to prepare the mind and the body for performance. We're really talking about competition. Now, you can do a taper even if you're not going to a specific event. So maybe you're testing yourself, you're doing a test set, or you're training for triathlon or something like that, and you want to evaluate your performance and where you're at in the season or in life, quite frankly. So you're really focusing on some kind of a performance element, and what you want to do is you want to give your body time to rest, to recover, and the opportunity to really focus on something specifically. So I have this beautiful graph. Go ahead and destroy the like button if you like my graphic skills here on the whiteboard. We've got the season, so this is a timeline on the x-axis, and we have volume on the y-axis. So at the end of the season, we have some kind of an event. Now, the duration of the season and the taper and everything like that is really going to vary based on whatever your goal is, right? So if you're training for the Olympics, you might be on a 4-year schedule between the Olympic Games. If you're training in a high school or club team or a master's competition, maybe your season is 4 months or 1 year or something like that. So when you have this season, at the beginning of the season, you start out at a little bit lower volume. And as you go throughout the season, you start to increase your volume gradually. In volume, we're talking about total distance that you're swimming. Intensity is a whole other variable, but we're talking about volume. And across the season, maybe you even have like a mid-season competition or a rest meet. If you're doing triathlon, this might be like a B competition. So that's going on right here. And you can see the volume starts to drop. This is kind of like a mini taper. So if each of these bars is a week or a month, you can see 3 sequential decreases in the total volume. That's the y-axis. And then we start to ramp it back up. So you have different cycles through this training period, and eventually you get to your peak. And this peak might be anywhere from 8 or 12 weeks before your final event, and you start to have this dramatic decrease in volume as you get closer to your competition. Your intensity will actually be inversely correlated. So the lower your volume goes, your expectation of intensity and performance will increase, and you have that target event at the very end. Now, if you guys are interested in following a training program that is written for you, whether it's USRPT, open water training, or anything else, make sure you check out the MySwimPro app available for iPhone and Android, and you can get a personalized training program and workouts for whatever goal that you have. So this is just an example to show you how your volume can increase over the course of a season, and then you have these different tapers that might happen with a big taper at the end of a season. Now, what are the 4 variables that you need to keep in mind? Then we're going to talk about the different workouts and different phases of the taper and the season. So the first one is volume. We already talked about that. Volume is very important because this is the total distance that you're swimming. This is oftentimes what people consider the most important variable in a taper because the more you swim, the more tired you're going to get. Now, those are not directly correlated. However, there are 3 other variables that we have to consider. So the second one is your intensity. So it's not just about how far you swim. It's really important to consider how hard you're swimming. And the intensity is very, very important because if you train with a very high intensity and you don't let off the gas, you actually don't need as much volume and your body is still going to be broken down and tired and you're not going to be able to perform. So intensity is another variable that will change over the course of the season, and in the course of a taper, it'll actually increase relative to your volume. The third variable to consider is your training density. Now, density is defined by the amount of swimming that you do inside of a given period of time. So for example, if you swim 1,000 meters in a 30-minute session versus swimming 1,500 meters in that same 30-minute session. So we're talking about a specific workout, and if you do multiple workouts per week or per day, density can also talk about how many workouts per day are you doing. So are you doing 3 workouts per day per 24-hour period, or 2, or 1, or 0? And so that's an important consideration, the actual density of how much swimming you're doing or training inside of a period of time. And then the fourth, and I believe to be actually potentially the most important, is the composition of your training. Are you doing more speed work? Is there more distance, more technique, more variety of training? Are you using equipment? Are you doing resistance training? And so all of these things come together over the course of a season, but especially in the taper. And like I said, traditionally people think that volume is the most important variable, and I believe it is very important, but I really think composition of the training is just as important, if not more important. And we're going to talk about that with these sample workouts, and you're going to see how they progress over the course of a season and into the taper. But first, I want to thank today's video sponsor, AeroFit. The AeroFit breathing trainer helps you improve your breath efficiency, anaerobic threshold, and vital lung capacity, which will give you the edge that you need to get faster in all 4 strokes and push your underwaters even further. You start with a guided vital lung capacity test in the AeroFit Sport app, and then you'll begin swimming-specific training programs that take just 5 to 10 minutes each day. After about 4 weeks of training with the AeroFit, I increased my vital lung capacity by over 25%. The app is super easy to use, and it gives real-time feedback. It feels like a video game, and you can control that with your breath. So head over to the link down below in the description to get 15% off an AeroFit breathing trainer. Now this discount is just for the MySwimPro community, and I know that you guys are going to love it. Thanks again to AeroFit for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. So let's talk about this progression that I have. I actually broke it up into 5 different phases. So we have the first phase, which is about 12 to 16 weeks out from your end race. So at the other end of the timeline, we have race day, and that's what we're focusing on. And like I mentioned, this timeline will change based on your training, your goal. So depending on your race and also your training background. So if you're training on a much longer season timeline, whether it's a full year or multi-year if you're an elite athlete, that's something else to consider. But we're going to pretend that this season is about 12 to 16 weeks long. So in this first phase, we are establishing a foundation to build off of. So you're working on technique. You're trying to build your capacity. Then we move into the next phase, which is about 6 to 8 weeks out from competition. So now things are starting to get a little bit more serious. Training is going to be really, really challenging on your body because 2 months before your peak season, you're at peak training. Peak competition, I mean. And so your peak volume, peak stress, your body's getting destroyed. We'll talk about what that workout looks like. And then we have 4 weeks out. So now we're starting to get closer to the competition. You know it's about 4 weeks away, 1 month away. You're refining your stroke details. You're getting more specific with the training that you're doing because you're really targeting a specific event. Then as we get really close to the race day, we're about 2 weeks out, and now we're definitely going to focus on that specific event. We're reducing our volume, and we're increasing our intensity relative to that volume. And then a few days before race day, the last part of our taper, we're really focusing on polishing the details. Now, let's go ahead and get deep into this, pun intended, on each individual workout. So let's look at this first workout that you do 12 to 16 weeks away. And again, this is just an example workout. We're going to look at the total volume. We're going to look at the time, and that gives us our density. And we're also going to look at the composition of the workout. So the first thing to consider here in this workout, it's 4,000 meters, 75 minutes. We've got a basic warm-up, 500 free, 1250s kick, 850s IM on the 55. Pay attention to the intervals. We're going to change those as well. Now the main set, we're going to pretend this swimmer is training for a 100 freestyle. Again, this can apply to 100 backstroke, 100 breaststroke, whatever. You get the point. Main set, we're going to go 6 100s pull on the 120, followed by a 400 free on the 6 minute, and then 250s freestyle on the minute, and we're going to go 2 rounds. We're going to focus on technique. Let's pretend we do this workout on a Wednesday. Our race day is on a Saturday, but it's 16 weeks out. So this is an example of a workout that might happen about 12 to 16 weeks before the competition. Now let's take a look at what happens as we get closer to the competition, because we're trying to get to peak volume and peak stress on the body. So we're gonna do the exact same warm-up, but instead of doing 1250s kick on the minute, now they're on the 55. We're getting less rest, higher density. We're gonna go 850s IM on the 50 instead of the 55. We're really putting a little bit more stress on the body, a little bit more density. Then the main set, instead of 6 100s, we're gonna go 8 100s. Instead of the 120, we're gonna go the 115. Instead of a 400, we're going a 500. Instead of 250s, we're gonna go 450s, and we're gonna descend 1 through 4. We're also gonna increase the total volume, so now we're at 4,800 meters in a 90-minute workout. Not only that, are we doing more volume, but we're doing more intensity, and we've peaked out in our training density. So we're doing more swimming in less time. So at this point, the body should be really, really strong, but also broken down and fatigued. So if you were to try and have peak performance right here, it'd be very, very difficult because you have peak volume. Now let's move into the taper phase. Now, we hit peak volume and now we're starting to taper. So about 4 weeks out, let's look at what the workout has transformed into. We're still doing a 500. Instead of 1250s kick on the 55, now we're doing 850s kick, one easy, one fast on the 105. So we added 10 seconds of rest, we're adding a little bit more intensity, and we're doing less volume. Instead of 850s IM, we're gonna do 450s IM. So we're still doing a little bit of stroke, but we're not destroying ourselves on the interval. Then we look at the main set. We're gonna go 6 100s, descend 1 through 6 on the 130. See what we did there? We went from 8 to 6, from the 115 to the 130, and then instead of a 500 free, we're now doing a 200 free. Instead of 450s free on the minute, now we're doing 450s free on the 110. So when you take a look at this workout, we're still doing it 2 rounds through. It's now 3,300 meters in about 75 minutes. So we've decreased the total volume, we've increased the composition of intensity, we've increased intensity, and the density has decreased. Now let's move this same workout. We're doing it on Wednesdays. 2 weeks later, we're 2 weeks away from the competition, about 2.5 weeks away. Instead of a 500 free, we're gonna go a 300 freestyle for warm-up. Instead of 850s kick, we're going 650s kick. And instead of the 105, now we're doing them on the 110. So we're getting even more rest, even more intensity as we descend those. 450s IM, 450s IM. We're gonna keep that consistent. Now the main set is where things really start to transform. We're gonna go basically the same main set, but instead of 2 rounds, we're gonna go 1 round. So we're chopping off a pretty significant amount of volume, and our intensity should be better because we're gonna go 450s freestyle, descend 1 to 4. We're only doing that once. We're really trying to get some peak performance. 200 cool down. Now the volume is down to 2,000 meters, about a 60-minute workout, probably a little bit less than that with these intervals. Our volume has decreased, intensity has increased, density has decreased, and the composition is even more intensity relative to the total volume. Now we're moving the same workout up until race day. We're just a few days away. It's Wednesday, so we're about 3 days away from race day, and we're basically polishing everything. So the total volume is almost half of what it was 2 weeks earlier. We're still gonna keep a consistent warm-up, 300 free, 450s kick instead of 650s kick, 250s backstroke instead of 250s IM, just to get a little bit of variety in there. Now we're gonna go 650s instead of 6 100s, and we're gonna descend 1 to 3, 4 to 6. Instead of a 200, we're going 100. Instead of 450s, we're gonna go 425s freestyle on the minute, descend to maximum speed. We should be hitting peak performance on those last couple 25s to really get ourselves ready for race day. Total workout volume is 1,300 meters. It should take about 30 minutes or less to complete. And as you can see through this entire progression, we've not only maintained relatively the same workout, but we've been able to toggle with these 4 training variables. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you destroy the like button. Let us know what questions you have down below in the comments. And once again, join the MySwimPro community. It's the biggest digital community in the world. It's on Facebook. I give feedback in the group as well. So I hope to see you guys in there. See you at the next video, and happy swimming.